Welcome back to another episode of Nobody Asked for That. Hi, hello, how are you? My name is Alex. If you're new here, it's nice to meet you. And if you're coming back, we're best friends now, you know how this goes. I hope you're doing well, and if not, I'm very sorry, and that's okay. It's okay to not be okay. But I do hope tomorrow is better and that you do something for yourself and that you take care of yourself, because it's important to recognize when you're not doing okay and just take care of yourself. Give yourself what your body needs, what your mind needs, etc. So I thought I would make a video about my favorite books. No one asked for this. Does anyone care about my favorite books? Who knows? But I made you a little stack anyway of my favorite books. This is, I don't know, it's not everything that I give 5 stars to is a favorite, but I think I've given all of my favorites 5 stars. If that makes sense. It doesn't have to make sense to you, it makes sense to me. And this is my world and you're just living in it. So, you're just gonna have to make do. I'm just gonna get right into it. So, this is in no particular order, although I do think, this is the order I grabbed it off my shelf. And my shelf is divided into sections and in alphabetical order, so that's the order it's in. The first book that we have here is Hot Milk by Debra Levy. I just read this book. I read this very recently, and I instantly fell in love with it. I received it as one of the books for my book subscription, and the people that pick these books they just get my taste. They get it. They really get it. This is about a young woman, Sophie, who takes her mother, Rose, to the coast of Spain. And they go to this small village to meet Dr. Gomez, who is this kind of controversial doctor to figure out what Rose's issue is, because no doctor can diagnose her, no doctor can figure it out. So they're hoping this guy knows what's up. And in this, Sophie meets this German woman who she befriends and starts a relationship with, as well as this man, the Spanish man that works in a first aid hut thing near the water. And this was interesting because it had a lot of themes of monsters and seeing people as monsters, or comparing things to monsters or monstrosities, as well as the theme of Medusa, both Medusa in Greek mythology as well as Medusa in the meaning of jellyfish. So that was interesting. I thought it was really gorgeously written. It's very, very smart. The next book is a book that I have dedicated a whole video to already, and this is another recent read that I adored, and it's written by a Canadian author, and that's Good Girl by Anna Fitzpatrick. If you want to hear me rave about this more, I made an entire video that is my love letter to Good Girl by Anna Fitzpatrick. But pretty much this tells the story of Lucy, and it's like a book about growing up, but when you're in your 20s. And she's living in Toronto, and she meets all kinds of interesting men and goes on all kinds of adventures with her best friends and has all kinds of crazy conversations with her coworker. And it's just fantastic, and you definitely should read it. Next is another book that I've also spoken about a lot, and if you were involved in Summer Splash, then you already know that this is my absolute favorite book, and I hope you had the chance to read it. If you didn't, read it now. It's never too late. And that's Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. I adore this book. It tells the story of 12 different people living in England, and it's all about Black identity. It's all about womanhood and the female existence. And what I love about this is that it spans all kinds of different sexual identities, religious identities, different generations, different ages, different socioeconomic statuses. It's so interesting and it's so brilliantly written. I love Evaristo's style, and I think she's just such an incredible writer. I love this book, and you should read it. Then Surprise Surprise is a Sally Rooney novel, and the one that's on this list is Normal People. I love this book. I think it is a very interesting analysis of relationships and how a relationship between two people can change so drastically over time, but their feelings for each other, they never change. It's also about meeting the wrong person at the wrong time, I think. It's about mental illness. It's about power structures within relationships. It's about sex, and it is very atmospheric because it's set in Ireland, and then there are a few scenes in Italy, and it is such a beautifully written book, and I love Sally Rooney, as you all probably already figured. Okay, next up is another book by a Canadian author, another book set in Toronto, and that is Scarborough by Hernandez. Again, if you've been on my channel, you've heard me talk about this. I adore this book. It is about various children living in Scarborough, which is a low-income community on the east side of Toronto, and each voice in this is so distinct and so powerful. It's funny, it's smart, it's heartwarming, it's heartbreaking, and I can't even express how much I love this book. It's so incredible, and I really can't wait to watch the movie. I read this book in a single day, so I really could not put it down. Then next is the only nonfiction book on this list, and it is a book of essays, and that is Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. All about indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and the teachings of plants. I do study environmental science, so this is like one of my greatest passions, but I think this can be appreciated by anyone, especially people that are curious about science, that are curious about the environment, and want to learn more. This is a gorgeous perspective from a woman in STEM. She's a professor of science, and she's also an indigenous woman, and she writes those gorgeous essays. Like, she just really makes stories about strawberries and salamanders and rain emotional. And I don't cry very much when I read books, but I cried when I read this. And it's so gorgeously written. Reading the first sentence won't even give you the impact of this novel. But you can see that I've tabbed it a lot. I don't really tab books, but I did with this one because I just annotated it so much. And then after that, I have a memoir that's also a graphic novel. I don't have a physical copy, unfortunately, but that is Fun Home, a family tragicomic by Alison Bechdel. This is like one of the top books that I read this year. I can't recommend it enough. I really loved the form of having a memoir written as a graphic novel. It was just such a brilliant story, and it was all about her life. It's essentially telling the story of Bechdel's relationship with her father, who was also queer, but he also had sex with young boys. So it's like her coming to terms with her complicated relationship with him, as well as the complexities of his death, which you're unsure if it was a suicide or if it was an accident. He was hit by a semi-truck on a road. The art is really great. The storytelling is just really great. And I feel like there is so much sense of identity in this story. And it's all about like family and figuring your place in this world. And I just thought it was so good. Such a good book. And then last but not least is a French book. And you can't find the English translation of this. I checked to make sure. And that is En attendant Bojangles by Oliver Bourdeau. The English version is called Waiting for Bojangle. And this is the story of a family. And the story is told from the perspective of the young son of this couple. and his mother is very mentally ill. And it tells the story of like her relationship with the father and how they met and how their relationship developed and like their love and their connection with each other, as well as the family's experience with this woman's descent into madness, essentially. It's very emotional. It is very beautifully written. I can 100% like attest to the French version. I don't know how the translation is, but it's an incredible story, and I really, really loved it. I've read it twice already, and I want to reread it again this year. That's it, that's all. Those are all my favorite books. I hope you enjoyed this. I highly recommend all of these, obviously. And I would also like to preface that these are my favorite books this week. Will I read my next favorite book tomorrow? It's entirely possible. These things change. Some of these have been long-standing favorites, and some of these are very, very recent favorites, like Hot Milk. But these are all stories that really resonate with me, and I think they reflect who I am well as a reader and as a person. So I hope you like this video. Like this video if you like this video. Subscribe if you want to see more of my content. It's not usually this dark. The sun is setting. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.